Hello and welcome to February's Printable, and well, to February. Anyway, this printable I actually put together using these Tombow markers. I really didn't use much of just a typical watercolor this month. I liked the color palette with these Tombow markers. And you can take these markers, and as you can see I'm adding a little water as I put it down, and it sort of turns it into a watercolor wash thing, whatever. So anyway, I am super late this month. We had a big snowstorm here, and which is not really normal for us, but we had a lot of snow. And because of that, I lost power for about 4.5 days, and there was no way to do anything or put anything together when there's no power and no heat, and it's just me and the 2 cats. So at least I'm getting to it now. We're right before Valentine's Day. And this was a bit of a struggle for me because I didn't want to make a printable completely about Valentine's, but then I couldn't wrap my brain around anything else about February. So this printable has balloons, and it has some flowers, and it has some butterflies, even though we don't have those in the month of February. And I just decided I would create what made sense to me, because even though we're in February and we're still in winter, I know that the butterflies are coming, and when I look out my front door, I already have daffodils beginning to bloom. They bloom here mid-February to like beginning of March, maybe a little bit later. And I wanted to incorporate some of this spring thought or thinking in this printable, even though, like I said, we are still in the middle of winter. I don't know if we're going to get any more winter weather. I hope we don't, at least not any more snow like that. That was a little scary and kind of tremendous. So anyway, I've decided I want to do something structural on the sides, sort of like a cityscape, or maybe something that looks more like a Greek design. And I thought it would be interesting to put that as the border on these 2 pages in different spaces, and then color it in. This Tombow marker is kind of a gray, a light gray, medium gray, I don't know. So I drew it with the fine point, and then I'm going back with the brush tip and just, as you can see, coloring it in. And then I like to go back sometimes with these and just do the outline of the image, so it gives it a little depth and, you know, maybe a little more precision and shadow. I don't know. I just thought it might look kind of cool. So these markers are quickly becoming my go-to for journaling and fun stuff. And now that I've figured out how to play with them like they're watercolors, it makes it even more interesting, and I can do more things with them. So as I'm finishing this up, I've really looked at this and tried to figure out what I wanted to do this time, because, as I said, February is kind of a challenge for me. It feels like an in-between month, and I journaled about that further on. You'll be able to see it. One of the things I like doing are Zentangle dangles. Zentangle is just a lot of fun. It's a whole different idea and perspective on art, and it's just lines repetitively, but these are dangles, and you just kind of draw a line or 2 across the top, down the side, or whatever, and then you put images at the bottom like they're hanging, kind of like a banner, but not necessarily in that way that it's going to be very symmetrical. It's much more asymmetrical and random, which is what I really like about it. And I thought, well, this would be the perfect place to drop in a dangle. And they're a lot of fun to make. Sometimes I have a difficult time coming up with what I want to put at the end of the strings, because I'm getting all excited about doing it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, what am I going to put at the bottom? So you can put circles and hearts and bows and ribbons and squares and triangles. Anything you can think of, you can drop in that. And as you see here, I'm even connecting them, just to give them a little more dimension and a little more fun, throwing some dots in, things like that. And I think that's what I'm looking forward to February being, is even though we're on the 11th or 10th or something, I'm looking forward it to being more like confetti, and where January was kind of quiet and the beginning of the year, but still kind of quiet and kind of introspective. I'm looking at February being more confetti and fun and colorful, and, you know, kind of still combating some of the doom, some of the gloom, not the doom, some of the gloom that we get this time of year. And I wanted to go back with this black Micron just to give it even a little more definition and to sort of really bring out some of those images and make them more pronounced. Used stencils yet in this journal, and it kind of reminded me that I want to maintain some level of consistency with things in my life, but it doesn't mean I want it to be mundane and boring. I want to have a plan. I want to work through things, and I want to know sort of what I'm doing and when I'm doing, but I don't want it so regimented that I get bored or it feels like burnout. And that was kind of what I was thinking about when I was putting these little squares and squiggle squares, whatever you call them, when I was putting them in, because I didn't want to make them all right beside each other and do the whole thing. But I wanted that essence of it's here and there's an outward and a framework and an outlook, but it's not so regimented that I can't breathe, because I'm very much, I don't know if you're like this, but I like routine, but I like routine so I can break it and change it and know that I'm not stuck in it and I have to do it every day constantly, you know, just to have something happen, just to make something happen, just to live. And I really tend to be sometimes fly by the seat of my pants. And I like that. That's not something I complain about or frustrates me. It's just I recognize it, and I wanted to sort of give that nod to that personality type, or, you know, whatever, on these pages for February. The February color palette for this printable is this really amazing bright fuchsia pink, a coral, and then kind of a pale salmon. But this pink reminds me so much of tulips. And I was just at the store this morning, and they have tulips in. I mean, it's the first part of February, and we're already getting tulips. And that was something that I loved going in this morning and seeing. And I thought about this when I was putting it together. I was thinking that the tulips will be coming out soon, and the daffodils. And I know it's something that we don't normally pay attention to, or at least I don't. I do pay a lot of attention. I'm very seasonally oriented, and I pay a lot of attention to the weather because I know that it affects our moods. And that was one of the things that I wanted to think about, was I know these colors because color affects our moods too. So if we're having those times of being, you know, sad or in a lonely spot or, you know, not feeling 100%, it's a really good time to get out some bright colors and play around in your journal, or wear bright colored clothing, or even with your meals, you know, grab something bright, some bright tomatoes or some bright strawberries, even raspberries, something that is a bright color that can really give you a boost of kind of a boost in visual. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I know it's here, but it's like this visual boost that helps your brain reconnect with itself and absorb the color and kind of bring it in and help you process and work through and get out of maybe some of the sadness or some of the glum that we have that we can have this time of year. And part of that we have this time of year is from, you know, the seasonal, I can't remember what it's called, but a lot of people have this challenge that when there's not a lot of sun, they get depressed easily. Thankfully, it's something that we can deal with, but it's not always fun. So I'm just working on where I want to place things, and this one is challenging for me because I know what I thought about when I was creating the printable, but now that I'm putting it together, I'm like, it's not really where I thought and not how I want. So I'm just playing around and figuring out where I want to put things and how I want them to look. And for this one, I did the sticker paper that has the white background, not the transparent background, but the white background. I cut these out ahead of time, but I will tell you, you do not see, it looks like I'm just, you know, slipping the back right off and putting them right down. I'm not. I had to go in and edit this because it is really difficult sometimes to get the backing off of this sticker paper. I don't mind a bit, but it can be a bit of a challenge. So I had to go in and edit out all of these lapses of, okay, I still cannot get the back off of this thing. But it doesn't matter because I did get them off, and I am pretty happy with how this turned out. Because I didn't want February to be just completely Valentine's, I decided to make some printables, make some stickers on here that were Valentine, but then make quite a few that were not. So what I did is I used everything on this 2-page spread for February that was not Valentine. And if you sign up to get the printable, you actually get a second video and a second 2-page spread that is strictly Valentine. So I pulled all of the other images that were for Valentine's Day and did a completely different spread, and it's in a grid pattern, and it's pretty fun. So I decided I wanted to share some things about determination and confidence, and it's a day-by-day, step-by-step thing. So this says determination and confidence means you keep going no matter how impossible things look. You find a way to make things work, figure things out, and never give up. And that's based in Joshua 1:6. So that was the scripture for where I'm at right now. And then I wanted to think about what was inspiring me. And some of the things that I am inspired by are crisp mornings and softer colors for this winter, cozy blankets, snowflakes, hot tea, music for hours, night owls. I have amazing owls out here that every night are talking to me. And, you know, creating collages, because I've really gotten into doing some of these collages, paper collages, and I've had a lot of fun with it. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, February seems like an in-between month, so I wanted to capture that, and the journaling that I put down is February is an in-between month. It's half winter and half spring. Daffodils and hyacinths peek from under the snow, and the sun is warming the afternoons. It's like the space between fully awake and still asleep. I want to hold on to this time greatly. not rushing into spring, but not hiding under the blankets to escape the cold. And that really is what's going on right now, because we're having days that are in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and we're having days that are in the 20s and 30s. And it goes back and forth. And I want to be sure that what I'm doing is not hiding under blankets and waiting for it to get warm, but I'm also not, sticking around going, okay, well, it's going to happen, but I want to be exploring and enjoying this in between that it seems like. And I know not everywhere's in between, but where I live, February can definitely be an in between month. That journaling space, I wanted to talk about what February seems to be to me. But with the next journaling space at the top where it says February, I wanted to think more about how I wanted to use and be in February. So I wrote, I want to use February to explore imagination and fairy tales, the kind that live beneath the snow and glisten within the icicles. And I'm looking for this time to be one of those exciting, magical prep times that is exploring different things and jumping into experiencing new things. And just as a nod to Valentine's, I did these little envelopes. And this one, I was thinking about special messages sound best when delivered in fancy envelopes. Email and text messages are sad replacements for handwritten sentiments. That really seemed to hit home with me because I love, fun, cute little envelopes that deliver interesting and caring messages. And I think because we text and email so much, we may have lost some of that, some of those sentiments and some of that idea. The word I chose for this year is unlimited, and I want to capture as much as I can recognize that is unlimited, that God has just blessed me, and I'm like, okay, hold a minute, that was an unlimited amount of. And of course, one of the first things that was unlimited a few weeks ago was snow, when we had a crazy snowstorm that was like 8 inches, knocked out the power, and it was a time of a lot of solitude, but it was okay. But I also know during the winter, I have unlimited time because I'm not working in the yard. I'm not trying to maintain landscaping. Color is unlimited because it's how much I can find and use that is different in the landscape. And there is unlimited care, not only for friends of mine, but for people that I'm friends with and with my animals and outside. And it's unlimited snuggles with my 2 cats, which they're always up for a snuggle. Grace is always unlimited. It just doesn't mean we always recognize it. I know I have to remember to purposely think about it. And conversations. This is a good time of the year when things have slowed down. We don't have the hustle and bustle, and we can have longer conversations with people that we care about. I also wanted to think about Ephesians 3:20, which is God can do anything. And I want to really hold on to that with every spread that I do, every month that I look at these things and see how it happens. And for this month, unlimited ended, or God can do anything, ended up being speaking engagements that I wasn't expecting, more energy than I was thinking I would have. I also watched God show me how to solve some problems, online stuff that I needed to figure out that I had just almost given up on. And of course, He always provides unbelievable provision because, He can do anything, and that's what He does. And along with giving so much health, even when I had the flu, I was blessed that it was not a horrible flu. It was just, kind of an under the weather type thing. But for the most part, a lot of sleep, and I felt okay. The last thing I want to remember is the color that I had for this year, which is green. And you know, we think February doesn't have a lot of green in it, but it actually does. And it also means, you know, we have blooming. Like I said, my daffodils are already blooming, so that's a beautiful color of green. And for this month, for February, it feels like more energy, renewed energy, early blooming, outside and personal. And I wanted to be sure I remembered to put my color in there and what it looked like for this month.